Hello, noble one. My name is Adez Atterson. Welcome to my channel. We continue our book discussion on gentle measures in the management and training of the young by Jacob Abbott, our uncle. We are still on the matter of punishment. The title of chapter 5 is The Philosophy of Punishment. Okay, let's quickly run through. Today we will look at some unique concepts that Jacob has brought to our notice. The first one is gaining the cooperation of the offender, so that's basically the child. And the second one is adopting playful punishments. I find that telling the stories here in the conversation makes the video too long. So I will just refer you to the story in the book. The link for the book is in the comment section. You can just go to chapter 5. If you don't want to read the whole story, just read the whole book, just read the stories. Now you can find it very interesting and you can learn a few things from the way he puts the conversation together. Now, the cooperation of the offender is a concept that I've experienced firsthand. As a growing child, I had a bad habit that was a capital no for my dad. So he tried everything from threatening, scolding, all they must do, must exclude list. He applied all of them. And he wasn't getting any results, you know. And eventually, I will say by divine revelation, because I can't tell why else he chose to, change the method. He asked me what I think will be a fitting consequence, you know, for each time I defaulted. So I gave him 2 or 3, if I can remember. Suffice it to say that it wasn't long before I stopped the habit or kind of brought it into sufficient control that both of us could then live with. So I totally agree with this concept that Uncle Jacob is sharing with us based on my experience. And basically, what this concept is talking about is that you engage with the child to come up with a consequence that they find worth it or considerate to the offense. And this is kind of useful for times that the offense is recurrent. Okay. So let's say, for example, like in the book, a child that is always getting into sibling rivalry with a younger one, and you've already had all the conversation about be the bigger person and all that and all that. You've done the training. I mean, you've done the teaching, which is should always come before consequence and all that. You've done the teaching. You've given time for the child to adopt and adapt the teaching, but you find that the flesh will not allow the principle to see it. That's when this kind of thing works best, at least from my experience. So back to the concept. When that is the situation, you then, reason with the child to come up with that consequence. It doesn't need to, you don't need to interfere, but might need to put like boundaries, okay? And you can allow the child to get other people involved in the conversation to help the child to decide what should be the consequence when they disobey or when they don't listen or when they're not able to keep to their part of an agreement. And, having done that, you will find that the child is more receptive to the consequence because one, it is self-chosen, and anything we do to ourselves or for ourselves is good to us, so You do that, always making sure that it's for repetitive situations. Okay, like leaving the door open, coming into the house with your outdoor shoe, things like that that you know you've talked about over and over again. Once you do that, give a feedback timeline, a time that you reassemble to evaluate whether the consequence is working or not. And if you find that it is working, it should be praised and the child should be rewarded, if possible, exuberantly. If it's not working, the consequence is not is not effective, then the child should also review it upwardly, seeing that the deterrent is not strong enough. Okay? So practice this and let me know. I have shared my personal experience on this already, and I know that it is a concept that actually can work. The other concept that he mentions is playful punishment. This was new to me, and even by the phrasing of it, it sounds contradictory where you're saying playful and you're saying punishment, but that still goes with the play of words, like I mentioned earlier. You know, the wordings of our generation has changed. Now, if you remember that the whole concept of consequence is to accomplish a future good in the child, then it makes more sense to you that all consequence does not have to be harsh, it doesn't have to be painful, it doesn't have to be very uncomfortable, it doesn't even have to be serious, and that helps you to change your mindset when you're even coming up with consequences. I think because of some of the background we had, when we are thinking consequence, we're always thinking something negative, something painful, something even harmful for some people. Like that's what they know and understand when they talk about consequence. And in this book, he gives an example of a child that always gets into, you know, rivalry with the sibling rivalry with the younger sister. And what then happens is the mother agrees with him that if any time he does that, he allows himself to be drawn into any sort of squabble with the little sister, he will remove his jacket and turn it outside and wear the back in front. So it's something very little, but you know that the I think the psychology of it is that that process of him removing the jacket and turning it around and wearing it and then removing it again after some time and turning it around reinforces the need for him to stop that behavior. And we should always be that creative in coming up with um, consequences. So the child did that for some time and they set a 2 weeks feedback time, which is also very important. And it turned out that he was doing very well with the consequence, and he had almost eliminated siblings rivalry with the sister. And the mother was like, I don't think you need to be changing your jacket each time we do that. Let's just use something lighter. So they now revised to something lighter and continued. And you can tell from just the progress that the child made in the time frame that eventually he will be cured. If you are having an objection to the story itself, Mr. Jacob says that you should pay attention that or bear in mind that these stories are not to be applied verbatim. They are just to explain the spirit and the temper of mind in which the measure or the training principles should be carried into effect. Okay? The most fundamental thing he's teaching in this chapter is to avoid or to exclude all elements of irritation, excitement, harsh tones, scowling, angry look, all violent or threatening expressions, or any form of expressing indignation or passion. That is really the point. However you achieve this, achieve it. If you want to follow his examples, which are just ideas and suggestions, good and well. If you want to come up with your own, good and well. If you want to ask ChatGPT, good and well. Whatever you need to do, do. But let us aim towards achieving this extraordinary. Okay? Now, that is basically the point that this part is making or is meant to make to us. And I hope we've gotten it down. So, to keep it short, I'll say goodbye, noble one, until I come your way in the next video. Go do differently, and you will experience differently. If you watched to the end, I want to thank you for doing that. Do drop in the comment section if while you were listening to this part, you are shaking your head vigorously and arguing with your phone. And if possible, tell us what the argument was about. Thank you.